So we've just finished reading Book 18 of Homer's Iliad, and in Book 18 there is the concept, as there is throughout the whole text, of the gods assisting and supporting Achilles and Hector and all of the other characters. But in Book 18 there is a passage that made me think back of the Bhagavad Gita, which made me think of a passage in the Bible. And so I'm going to share all that with you under the concept and title of when God is on your side. When God is on your side, then of course you are assured victory, particularly in all of these stories that I'm going to tell you. And so here I'm going to just read the passage from Book 18 of the Iliad. So here, he went out from the wall and stood at the ditch, but did not go further to join the Achaeans, respecting his mother's firm command. Then he stood and shouted, and away to one side Pallas Athene raised her cry, and his shout started a mighty terror in the Trojans, as when the voice of a trumpet cries out sharp and clear when murderous enemies are surrounding a city. So then Achilles' voice carried clear and loud, and when the Trojans heard the brazen shout of Achilles, all their hearts were shaken in fear. Even the lovely maned horses sensed danger in their hearts and began to pull their chariots round. And this is because Achilles' mother Thetis, and of course here we also have Pallas Athene on his side, and at another time in the text Zeus has even intervened, Ares, the god of war, and there's often the gods intermingling with the humans and the heroes. And as I was mentioning in the full stream, this could be even taken as like an astrological thing. When Zeus becomes the Roman Jupiter, that means that Jupiter has an aspect on the individual, and when Ares or Mars has an aspect, or all of the other gods, it has an impact on the humans. And in Homer's Iliad, it's a massive theme running throughout the whole book of this intertwining of the fate of the gods and the fate of man, in the sense of God helping them. And when God's on your side, as I'm saying, you're assured to win. And so now I'll just read a brief passage that reflects this again in the Bhagavad Gita. It's from the very first book, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And I'll begin reading from passage 11. And it says, "Now all of you must give full support to Grandfather Bhishma, standing at your respective strategic points in the phalanx of the army." So this is the opposition. Grandfather Bhishma is on the opposition to Krishna and Arjuna, who are the main characters. It's ultimately a dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna. And then it goes on to say, "Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, like the sound of a lion, giving Duryodhana great joy. After that, the conch shells, bugles, trumpets, drums, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous." And this is a similar theme. The shout, the conch shell, the trumpet is sounded by the armies before the battle. And this is, like I'm saying, the opposition, the opposing side to Krishna and Arjuna. And now we come to verse 14. "On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses," as you can see, that's the front cover of this wonderful, beautiful edition I have, "sounded their transcendental conch shells." So their divine conch shells, the conch shells from the gods. And it goes on to say, "Then Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchanjanya. Arjuna blew his, the Devadatta, and Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Pandram. King Yudhishthira the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, and Anantavajaya and Nakula and Shahadeva blew the Shogosha and Manipushpaka. That great archer, king of Kashi, the great fighter, Shikandi, Dhritasdyumna, Virata, and the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Drupada, all the others, O king, such as the sons of Subhadra, greatly armed, all blew their respective conch shells. The blowing of these different conch shells became uproarious, and thus vibrating both in the sky and on the earth, it shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. And there is extensive commentary from A.C. Bhaktivedanta on this, and he comments that because it's a transcendental conch shell, it's Arjuna's conch shell, the opposition know that they've already lost. They cannot win because Krishna is on the opposing side. With Arjuna, he has a transcendental conch shell, Panchanjanya, and because he's blown that, it's a transcendental conch shell. It's God. You're not going to win a battle if God's on the other side. And that's another aspect of God being on the side. And the final passage I want to read with you before we move on to a sort of slightly different concept that comes from Buddhism. In Buddhism, it would be considered merit, not that God's on your side. It would be that you would accumulate merit. But in a syncretic sense, is it not the same thing, right? In Hinduism, Bhakti Yoga, Christianity and Judaism, you have God on your side. But if in Buddhism you are acquiring merit, is it not very similar? So I like to read from the King James Bible, and so this may be a little bit antiquated language if you're not familiar with King James, but I'm going to read it. And this is a story from 1 Kings 18 where Elijah is sort of having a battle with the followers of Baal, and they're having like a duel, and Baal says, we have the true God. God's on our side. And Elijah says, no, I don't think so. Let's have a battle. You call upon your God to light your funeral pyre, and then I'll do the same, and we'll see what happens. And as you'll see, Elijah even pours lots of water onto the pyre, but it is a fantastic passage. And again, if you're familiar with all of these texts, they all have the same sort of syncretic thread running through them. And I, for one, feel it's a very powerful concept of having God on your side. And if God is on your side and you pray Him, you have strong faith, then you can really move forward in your life, move forward with hope, with faith, and knowing that God is with you. So where should I begin here? Here we go. So it's rather long passage, but bear with me. And if you like the Bible, you'll enjoy this passage. And Elijah came unto all the people and said, How long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Then said Elijah unto the people, I, even I only, remain a prophet of the Lord, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them, therefore, give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And call ye on the names of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord. And the God that answereth by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, It is well spoken. And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal, Choose you 1 bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for ye are many, and call on the name of your gods, but put no fire under. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leaped upon the altar which was made. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them, and said, Cry aloud, for he is God. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth and must be awaked. And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lancets, till the blood gushed out upon them. And it came to pass, when midday was past, and they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. And Elijah said unto all the people, Come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench about the altar as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order, and cut the bullock in pieces, and laid him on the wood, and said, Fill 4 barrels with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice, and on the wood. So not only is he calling on the Lord God to bring down fire from heaven and light his pyre, he's pouring water on it, so it's soaked wood. Fill 4 barrels with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood. And he said, Do it a second time. And they did it the second time. And he said, Do it the third time. And they did it the third time. And the water ran about the altar, and he filled the trench also with water. So not only is it a pile of wood, it's a pile of soaking wood with water all around it. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stones and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, The Lord, he is the God, the Lord, he is the God. And Elijah said unto them, Take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon, and slew them there. And that was the biblical passage. And just to conclude, to bring in another syncretic thread from the Buddhist perspective, of course, Buddhism, you wouldn't say God's on your side, you wouldn't call upon God or pray to God, but they have this concept of merit. And I'll just read a brief passage about merit. Merit in Buddhism, Buddhism being a non-theistic tradition, does not operate under the concept of divine favour, but instead emphasises karma and merit as the primary forces shaping one's life and future rebirth. So again, I would argue that if you were to gather merit or accumulate merit, it would be very similar to someone saying they're close to God. They're a good person, they've done their prayers and their offerings, and they're close to God, and they've acquired a lot of merit. Again, I see them as very similar. And in Buddhism, merit is gained through generosity, through virtue, and through meditation. And you can transfer merit, according to this article, to others, including deceased relatives. So you can take your merit and give it to another person. And unlike theistic traditions where divine favour is often granted through prayer or grace, as we just read through all of those other texts, merit in Buddhism is entirely dependent on one's own actions. There is no God or external force deciding who gets rewarded. Instead, the law of karma ensures that wholesome action lead to positive outcomes either in this life or future rebirths. And so that's what I wanted to share about when God's on your side. And of course, whether you take a Hellenistic approach with the Olympian deities, or if you want to take an astrological approach, whether that be Vedic astrology or Western astrology, and these planets are auspicious or inauspicious depending on where they are. Whether you want to take the Bhakti Yoga ideal and have a formal relationship with Krishna, and Krishna help support you in your life's path, or if you're a Christian or a Jew and you want to see that Prophet Elijah proves to the people, the worshippers of Baal, that their God is inadequate. It's not real. It's not the true God, and only Jehovah, Yahweh, is the true God. Or maybe you don't like all of that theistic stuff and you want to just be a good person and burn your bad karma, accumulate good karma, and see things in that light. Makes no difference to me. It's just being a good person, having the favor of heavens and the gods and good karma. And in that sense, we can move forward through this life.